It's great to, I see a lot of familiar faces this evening, even some from New Zealand, and it's a great honor, it's a privilege to be standing and to leading us in devotion this evening. Waitangi Day is always special for a lot of us, especially in our family, because my sister was born on Waitangi Day. And luckily, you know, my father being Samoan, he wanted to call her or name her Waitangi. And luckily my mother won, and her name is Lotu. So yeah, no big difference, you know, she was born on a Sunday. So she goes, so it was a choice between Waitangi and Lotu. Psalms 4, verse 8 reads like this: "In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. O te taoto mo moe file mu, a wā oeleri ie, nā oelava, wa unofo ai male file mu." This evening, it is a great honor for all of us to have the company of Right Honourable Vaovasamanaia, Winston Peters, and the esteemed delegation from New Zealand. The Honourable Head of State and his good lady, Deputy Council of Deputies are here as well, Honourable Prime Minister and Cabinet Ministers of the independent state of Samoa, as well as the well-regarded staff of the New Zealand High Commissioner's Office to Samoa. Kia ora, tālofa, warmest greetings. I worked part-time in New Zealand to assist with my tertiary education 35 years ago. My parents were blue-collared workers who worked manual labour jobs that fortunately for my siblings and I put food on the table and a roof over our heads. When I finally saved some decent money from my part-time dishwashing job, I asked my mum what I could buy for her on Mother's Day. Without hesitation, she said, "A nice bed." I was shocked. I expected that she would say a car, clothes, perfume, or even some money to send back to the relatives in Samoa. But alas, she wanted a new, expensive, luxury orthopedic merino bed, which cost $6,000. That was a lot of money back in the olden days. My friends, when told of my impending purchase, were not surprised, and they were not impressed. They said, "You should ask her again to make sure that she really wants a bed for Mother's Day." To this day, I've never forgotten her answer. She said to me, "Son, I work 3 jobs. I have 3 school-aged children to look after as well as your father. I have an arthritic knee and my back is not too good. After all the stresses and demands of the day, I look forward to the time when I can come home and sleep. I look forward to the time that I can rest soundly and safely, free from the demands and trials of the day." We read at the start, Proverbs 3, verse 24. "When you lie down, you will not be afraid. Your sleep will be sweet. Your sleep will be sweet." Beyond the call of duty, how sweet sleep is. When we work so hard, after a hard day's mahi or graft, how sweet rest is. For someone like my mother, sleep was so sweet as she worked with vigor and gutso. How sweet sleep was when you were tiresome and weary. She washed dishes also and made sandwiches. In her 3rd job, she was a cleaner. And I am not in any way ashamed of the job that my mother did. From her labor and her toiling, how sweet sleep was, knowing that she was not afraid for the safety of her children. Brothers and sisters in Christ, sometimes we take for granted sleep and the luxury of a good nap, some shut-eye or some kip, as we say. We see with some intrepidation a world where families are displaced for whatever reasons, societies and communities rife with war and tyranny. People, families cannot sleep. But I am so fortunate, and I thank the Lord growing up in New Zealand and now living in beautiful Samoa. I do not take for granted the precious opportunity to rest and sleep. This Waitangi Day, that was my prayer, for all persons to be able to sleep and rest without hindrance. I started school just as the dawn raid ceased, and I have never forgotten the privilege of sleeping, resting in safety and comfort. With war and famine and natural disasters adversely affecting people around the world, especially families, I will never take it for granted that I slept in a bed in a house furnished by my parents. Yet as a church minister, I know there are so many around the world who are not so lucky and privileged. The national anthem of New Zealand, God Defend New Zealand, has this line: guard Pacific's triple star from the shafts of strife and war. That is our collective calling and our prayer this evening, that we may sleep free of strife and war, that we leave a legacy for our children free of strife and war, that when we leave this place and we pass it on to our children, and they will be the stewards and caregivers of this earth, may it be less of a place of strife and war. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." To the delegation from New Zealand, enjoy the rest of your time in beautiful Samoa. It's been a long and arduous day. Enjoy the sleep tonight.
Ngā mihi te rangi, ngā mihi te whenua, ngā mihi ki a koutou, kia ora mai tātou. I greet the sky, I greet the earth, I greet all of you also. E tuatahi ki te kaikarakia to the giver of the prayer, Reverend. Ka tangi ki tō tātou matu I tarangi, tēnā koe. On our behalf, you have called out to God in heaven. Thank you. Can I firstly acknowledge Your Highness and your good lady, tēnā kōrua. To the Prime Minister Fiame and your Cabinet, tēnā koe hoki. To opposition MPs, tēnā koutou, the High Commissioner, diplomats, delegations and staff, traditional leaders, our religious leaders, nau mai, haere mai, whakatau mai, greeting. Thank you for the invitation to join you tonight and your acknowledgement of our National Day, Waitangi Day. A wise man once said, "Do not measure success by today's harvest, but by the seeds you sow." That wise man is buried a few kilometres from here, the author Robert Louis Stevenson. Our previous relationship with Samoa goes back decades, and together we have sown the seeds of democracy, the seeds of infrastructure, and the seeds of regional stability. And at this, I'd like to acknowledge the Right Honourable Winston Peters, Deputy Prime Minister, a good friend of the Pacific who has helped us sow these seeds. In 2019, however, an unwelcome seed arrived on these shores in the form of 250 nanometres of single-stranded RNA that we know as measles. With it came an R0 in infectivity 6 times what later was going to be COVID, and tragically 80 souls departed this mortal life. In that, to Samoa, we say we grieve your loss. We also say that we commit to the principle of vaccination that provides protection against infections such as measles. 180 years previously, on June the 6th, 1840, a new seed was sown at Waitangi. A seed that has grown to deliver kohangareo, kura kaupapa, wānanga, and dozens of treaty settlements. Exactly what the final harvest will look like is still unclear, but we are encouraged, if not impelled, to keep planting. In closing then, thank you for acknowledging our National Day, and we look forward to working with you to achieve tangible outcomes in the Pacific. To focus on tangible outcomes, Robert Louis Stevenson also said this, and it's something that we should all continually check ourselves with. He said, "Don't ever confuse motion with progress." We look forward to progressing with you. Tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou. Thank you, good evening.
Thank you very much, Minister. Now it gives me great honour to introduce New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Right Honourable Vaovasamanaia Winston Peters, for your address. Thank you.
Kia ora, talofa, tēnā koutou katoa. Greetings, Your Highness and good lady, and Deputy, to the Prime Minister and her ministers, and members of the opposition, and the diplomatic corps and all those associated with us, and friends of New Zealand. Thanks for being here this evening to celebrate a very controversial day back in its homeland, but much more peaceful in our country. But don't be put off. That controversy is actually sometimes marvellous if at the end of it we get a conclusion and a resolution that is based on unity. For there is one compelling fact that is a message for the blue continent and its nations and its people, is our unity going forward will take us to places way beyond any dreams of separatism and difference and just one narrow national interest. And so it is for the people of New Zealand, and we are delighted to be here, having been to two similar events on our trip with respect to the Treaty of Waitangi 184 years ago. Come to think of it, it's quite amazing that at that time, our leaders, our paramount people, speaking in our place, there by status, not by elections, spoke for us. And for our part, and for many people who think somewhat like me, we do think that our leadership at that time, given this record of enormous adventure over hundreds and hundreds of years to come that far, all the way just to be north of the Penguins, were a group of people who actually knew what they were doing, knew what they spoke for, and were highly intelligent. Otherwise, they could have never have survived in what was largely in New Zealand a very hostile environment. I mean, why did we leave paradise? When you think about it, for some areas of the country, which as I described yesterday, the standard diet was 65 to 70% ground fern root. It wasn't not the paradise that people say, but nevertheless, we made it. Now, Reverend, you were talking about sleep. And what a marvellous message you gave about the priorities of someone who came to New Zealand and worked 2 or 3 jobs, paid all the taxes, did everything, got stuck in and gave you an education. Fantastic, and we want to see people go on doing that. And thank heavens you took the request seriously and got her what she needed, a good sleep. But having said that, can I just say to you, Reverend, long time ago, I personally did a calculation that if you take into account infancy, and somebody lived to 80 years of age, and the standard 8 hours or 9 hours a night, by the time you died, you'd have been asleep 32 years. Now, Rip Van Winkle was only 20, but you'd have been asleep for 32 years. And then my belief became, just giving this personal story, I don't know why, but he raised it, and you might grasp it in the end, that I decided that we'll do something like the Spanish or the South American, or in some parts of the Pacific way. We'd only sleep briefly at night, but have 1/2 to 40 minutes in the daytime, like Churchill did, because it's worth 3 to 4 hours at night. And then you can make sure you out-stamina your opponents when they want to go home and have a sleep at 11 or 12 or 13 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Because as you know, all conspiracies in politics start happening after the House rises. Now, only reason why I raised it, I just thought it was a marvellous story for you to say. But the excitement of this job at the moment, it always has been, is the chance to find sound policies in consultation with others that take us to new levels of performance, of welfare and of progress that is sustainable. And sometimes we need to stop and just, before we all criticise too much and follow the dichotomy or the lectern of complaint, think about some of the things we have made so much progress on. And it has been tremendous. Because our evidence for that is, when people are queuing up to leave somewhere else, we're a place where they want to go. So it can't be all bad. Now, as for the Pacific, we're a lucky country in the sense that here we have these people in New Zealand who made such an enormous contribution, now upskilling their education, going forward, and we live in one of the greatest parts of the world without any doubt at all. It's a marvellous theatre in which we live. We need to help each other and go forward, keep the economic progress going, but with the right policies and more collegiality and less difference, we're going to make this part of the world, the blue continent, what it was when many people first came here from far, far away. We're going to make it, not to quote somebody wrongly, great again. Worth living in again, worth wanting to come to enjoy again. So thank you for the chance to talk to you here. It's a delight, Prime Minister, to have you here. It's a delight to be here in a long-standing, formidable, highly recognised, respected and stable democracy. Because whatever you think, in the end, this is some valued position in the canvas of history. Is so rare to have a population and a civilization governed by the people's choice. And long may it be. All the very best. Kia kaha.
Reverend Siosi Salisulu. Lau fionga tui meleli whano wa le toa sua lau vi le lua, Manamasiofo, member of the Council of Deputies, and your good lady. The Right Honourable Vaovasamanaia, Winston Peters, and members of your delegation, Honourable Ministers of Cabinet, members of the Judiciary, Honourable Speakers, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition and members of Parliament, Your Excellency, the New Zealand High Commissioner, CLA Van Tua, members of the Diplomatic Corps, guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to join you this evening to celebrate Waitangi Day. Although Vaovasa says it was a bit contentious, but that's healthy democracy for you. Allow me on behalf of the government and people of Samoa to congratulate the government and people of New Zealand on the celebration of your National Day, the 184th anniversary of the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi. Tonight I especially acknowledge the presence of the Right Honourable Vaovasamanaia Winston Peters, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Aotearoa, New Zealand, and your delegation, including the Honourable Dr. Shane Reti, Minister of Health. Your visit is an opportunity for Samoa and New Zealand to reconnect and renew relations, exchange perspectives given the outcomes of your recent elections, discuss existing and potential future collaboration between our two countries, as well as share views on emerging regional issues. Your presence here and celebration of Waitangi Day in Samoa draws us closer to the reality and significance of Waitangi Day. This is also a fitting opportunity to warmly welcome the new High Commissioner of New Zealand, Her Excellency CLA Van Tua, who recently arrived and presented her letter of credence to the head of state on the 6th of February, the anniversary of Waitangi Day. Her Excellency CLA Van Tua, I believe, is the first High Commissioner of Samoan descent to be posted in Apia. Excellency, this is your first of many official functions during your post in Samoa, and I wish you well in your tenure here. Samoa and New Zealand celebrates this year the 62nd anniversary since the signing of our Treaty of Friendship, the cornerstone of our close bilateral relations. Then our two countries expressed a desire to maintain and strengthen the bonds of amity and goodwill, and to provide for continued cooperation. We continue to live up to the promise of this very special treaty, which is most evident in our people-to-people connections. With every anniversary, we wonder if there's room to consider facilitation of the temporary movement of people to visit families, engage in business development, and spend holidays in New Zealand as tourists. The ongoing seasonal worker scheme continues to improve livelihoods of many Samoan families while contributing to economic growth in New Zealand. We are focusing our attention on a considered review of all the schemes Samoa is engaged in, given the emerging impacts on our service industries and the growing human resource constraints, though mindful also of people's rights to choose. We need to determine how we can adjust our approach so that we can remain on a sustainable development path while harnessing the benefits of these opportunities. The close relations between our two countries continue through cooperation in the areas of health, education, tourism, sports, private sector development, and budget support under the Joint Policy Action Matrix. It is important to revisit the partnerships we have committed to and ensure they remain mutually beneficial. In this connection, Samoa is keen to see the early signing of the Samoa-New Zealand Partnership Agreement for the new financial triennium 24 to 27. In fact, the Deputy Prime Minister and I did the signing of this agreement earlier today. We do not expect deviation from the existing priority areas of cooperation, although we should ensure that actual resourcing is directed to activities that are at a state of readiness for implementation. In a similar vein, we are indeed appreciative of the signing of the Climate Finance Partnership, which places us in good stead to implement our prioritized adaptation and mitigation initiatives, including some of the key outcomes of COP28. Likewise, we welcome the generous support by the Government of New Zealand and our other development partners towards our preparations for the hosting of the Commonwealth Heads of Governments meeting here in October. And we do look forward to the partnerships to deliver a successful and truly Pacific CHOGM. Excellencies, before closing, I would like to wish some of your departing staff, Mr. Rhys Fitzgibbon, a safe journey home at the conclusion of his term as Second Secretary. I wish you well in your future endeavours. Deputy Prime Minister Vaovasamanaia, Minister of Health, Dr. Reti, and your delegation, thank you for visiting Samoa and celebrating with us Waitangi Day. I wish you all safe travels. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if I could respectfully invite you all to join me in the proposal of a toast. If you would kindly charge your glasses and be upstanding. I would like to propose this toast to the success and prosperity of the government and the people of New Zealand. Happy Waitangi Day, Ia Manuia.